A lot of times people ask us, where's daily value come from and how credible is it? And that's an important question. So first of all, that's assuming that you're a 70 kilogram male, which most people are not. They're either more or less or they're female. The second thing is isn't factor in your diet, your exercise load, your stress condition, and your environmental factors. That's also important. Also, the people that are doing these studies are typically laboratory scientists that are not physiologists, they're not physicians, they're not necessarily studying large populations of people living adaptive lives. And the classic example that we're going to use here is vitamin D. For many, many years, no one really cared about vitamin D until they realized that's one of the biggest determining factors of your health, especially mental health. The next thing that happened was that the institutions were recommending something between 400 and 800 IUs a day and saying anything more than that could be potentially harmful. However, in the last 5 or 10 years, it's become more commonly accepted that your body is going to typically need an excess of 1,000 to 2,000 IUs a day. So the reason why this is used as an example is that it's been shown with vitamin D that the daily recommended values that were used for over half of a century were really based on poor science. They were definitely inadequate, and they weren't really based on a population-based understanding. It was much more of a laboratory component and something that wasn't very understood or properly measured. So typically the daily recommendations are going to be very variable. The more important thing with daily recommendations and why they can matter is your body can typically only absorb a certain amount, and that's where they can be useful. So if we have a general idea that the body, for example, can only absorb 100 milligrams a day, if someone were to try to take multiple hundreds of milligrams in a single dose, we can use that as a guideline to say that's probably going to be too much, either because we can't absorb it all, or putting that much in our body at once could be negative. So what we can do is we can use daily recommendations to get an idea of how to break up the dosing. So for example, if my goal is to consume 500 milligrams of vitamin C a day, which is a reasonable dose, how do I break that up? Some people may want to use a lower amount per dose, and they may use a daily recommendation guideline to say, well, they're only recommending 100 milligrams a day. 500 milligrams is obviously more than that. So let me see if I can break up that 500 milligrams of my intake into multiple intakes, which may be a better idea for frequency of absorption, excess absorption, and things like that. But yeah, they really kind of don't know. Like some things they do, some things they don't. A lot of it would be like you might give someone something and then measure their lab values. But again, you're probably talking about a couple hundred people who aren't athletes, who probably aren't young, who have other health conditions and things like that, yeah. So again, it's like you were saying earlier, like you kind of have to go off how your body feels.